Michelle Prince was in the first Ziglar Legacy training class. Woo! Class 1. And I got to know her and really see the heart that is behind everything that she does. So she helps people get their story out. And I've also had the privilege of spending an entire day with her and know just exactly how amazing it is to sit in a room with somebody that knows how to ask the right questions to get to the bottom of your story. So it's with great honor that I introduce my friend, Michelle Prince. Give her a round of applause.
Yay, thank you, Sherry. Oh, no, I'm not hunting. Love you. Oh, that's why we didn't do it. Let's give it up for Miss Sherry Perry. She is, I tell her all the time, she is pure sunshine, isn't she? Love her, love her, love her. Well, I am so excited to share with you all today. And is it okay if we have fun? Because it's after lunch and we need a little bit of energy, yes? Do we need energy in this room? Okay. So this is a little workshop, but honestly, we're going to have a really, really good time. Thank you, Miss Alexandra. Awesome. Well, I'll start off with, I always share this quote because it is my all-time favorite quote by my mentor, Zig Ziglar. And the quote is, "Man was designed for accomplishment, engineered for success, and endowed with the seeds of greatness." I know you all have heard that quote before, or many of you have, but I love that quote because what that really is saying is everything you need to be successful in your personal life and your professional life, it's already within you. You have these seeds of greatness. They're in you. You don't even have to acknowledge them to realize that you have them. And in fact, that's what most of people do throughout life, don't they? They go through their whole life not recognizing all the gifts and things that they have within them, and Zig says they're already there. I love that. But what do we do with seeds? So how many of you are gardeners? Anyone? Green thumbs? Okay, it's not me, but I do know what seeds look like. But you know what I'm talking about. You know when you go to the gardening store, Home Depot, and you get a little packet of seeds, that could be tomatoes, that could be flowers, whatever, a little packet of seeds. So imagine those little packet of seeds, whatever they are for you, they're inside, right? So most of the time we go through life, like I was saying, and we have these seeds, we don't even know they're there. What a tragedy. But a lot of times, some of us, we see the seeds, we shake the container, we even rip it open, and then we do nothing with them. Well, what good does that do? What do you have to do with seeds? You have to throw them on the ground. You have to give them water. You have to nourish them. You have to take care of them in order for them to do something, right? Just because you have a seed doesn't mean it's going to take root. But that's the beauty of that quote, but it's also the beauty of who we are as people. You see, because when you do plant that seed, first you got to recognize you got it, right? You have to know you have those seeds of greatness. Then you have to put them in the ground, which, by the way, all of you are doing at this conference and other conferences like this. You're planting and watering and giving all that the nutrients that seed needs to grow. And when it does, oh, what a magnificent, beautiful creation that comes from that tiny little seed. And what's so amazing is that each and every one of you has that seed. You know what it is? It's your story. It's who you are. It's what you were created for. It's the gifts that you don't even have to recognize or accept, but you got them. And what do we do with gifts? We give them away. So that's what Howard asked me to come and talk about today. Not really about seeds, by the way. He had no idea that I'd be talking about seeds. No, we want to talk about how do you build a profitable platform? And I set the stage about the seeds and our gifts and all that, because what is really a platform? A platform is just this, what I'm standing on. It's just the ability to rise above, to share what you know, to share your gifts, to share your seeds of greatness. But that platform is so crucial that in your business as professionals, but also just as people, if you don't recognize how to build a platform, how to have the ability to stand, and I don't mean as a speaker per se, but to really make an impact in this world, then you have to know how to build it. You have to know what a platform is, and that's really what I want to talk about, because it really boils down to three things. First, to build a platform, you have to tell your story. A lot of you already know part of my story. I'll share some of it with you, but it involves my passion and love for helping people to find their story and to share it. And I am a publisher. I do own a publishing company, but I'm not here to convince you to write a book yet. I just want you to get comfortable telling your story. The second strategy or what you need to do in order to build a profitable platform is you gotta leverage your story. It's one thing to have those seeds, but again, if you don't do anything with them, what good does that do you or anyone else? So I want to talk about how do you leverage those gifts that you already have? How do you leverage what you know in your business? How do you leverage it so that you can monetize it, so that it can help bring you more opportunities? So that's the second piece. And then the third piece is stepping into your greatness. You have to step into your greatness. You have to own the fact that you have those seeds of greatness. Whether you believe it or not, you do. But now you have to step into it. You have to own it. And we'll get into more details of what that looks like. So the first point in how do you build a profitable platform is telling your story. You have to tell your story. Now, some of you are thinking, yeah, right, I'm never going to tell my story, or I'm certainly not going to write a book. I know some of you, you don't have to raise your hand. I know a few of you are out there. So let me give you a couple reasons why you should tell your story. Because I believe everybody has a story. Everybody. And the first point to make is every story matters. You know, I've already had a chance to talk to a couple of you in the audience, and just some of your backgrounds and the things that you've overcome and how you've grown or how you're in the process of growing these incredible businesses. That is your story, or part of your story. But you understand when you tell your story, it inspires people. That's why it matters. You know, one of the reasons why I believe Zig was so beloved is because he was a great storyteller, right? But it wasn't just about him being so great and powerful and all these things. He told the stories about how he struggled, how he was poor, how he lost his dad at an early age. And all those things touched our heartstrings in a way that impacted us, or many of us. So you don't know the power of your story until you tell it. Because there could be one person that just needed to hear, wow, you came to this country, you had a career somewhere else, and you had to start from scratch. How that can impact someone. So your story matters. I could go on for that. Okay, your story also gives you instant credibility. Instantly. Have you ever been to a conference, or if you ever heard a speaker and you stood in line to buy their book, and you were, actually I take that back, you were impressed with who they were long before you read their book? Think about that. Most of the times we are impressed with a speaker, or I'm sorry, an author, for the pure fact that they wrote a book, not because of the contents. Because in most cases, we haven't even read the contents yet. So it's that instant credibility. Now, I'm not going to say that it's always deserved. There are plenty of people who write a book that maybe don't deserve that credibility. However, it doesn't matter. We place so much value and respect on somebody who writes a book. Instant credibility. Your story also will establish you as the expert. Most of the people that we work with to help produce their books or to help teach others how to write a book are business owners because they're looking for a way to differentiate themselves from the competition. There is no greater way to differentiate yourself from the dentist down the street or the carpet cleaner down the street is to be a published author. Because if somebody's looking to do business with you or the person down the street, you're the published author, you must be the expert. Authors are always the expert. Your story will bring more opportunities. No matter what your business is today, I can promise you and almost guarantee you that more opportunities will come to you. Now, I personally am a professional motivational speaker. I love to be on stages. Not all of you want to do that. But if you do, I can promise you a book will give you the ability to get on stages. Opportunities are attracted to authors. Authors are the experts. Your story creates leverage. I'll go into more of that when we talk about building your platform. But just your story. By the way, your story is your story is your story. Parts of it you just can't change. So get used to it. But leverage it. And I'll show you ways to do that. My good friend, God bless you, my good friend Bob Berg wrote The Go-Giver. And he always said that people do business with those they know, they like, and they trust. Isn't that true? Think about the last purchase you made. You probably had a choice, meaning there was probably another competitor selling that car or selling that copier or whatever it is that you had to buy. Chances are good, though, or that marketing company, chances are good that you did business with them because you liked them, right? You connected with them. You wanted to work with them. People do business with those they know, like, and trust. Well, I just happen to believe the best way for your clients to get to know, like, and trust you is to know your story. It's so powerful. So if that's the case, then that's the best way for people to get to know, like, and trust you is to know your story. Is it okay if I share my story? Yes. How many of you have heard me speak before? Okay. Or this is your first time, as Tom Ziglar would always say. All right. For those of you, I know a lot of you know my story, but for those of you who don't, I just want to share it with you a little bit. And I did mention earlier we were going to have some fun. Is that still okay? All right. All right. So I love the 80s. I grew up in the 80s. How many of you in the room grew up in the 80s? Raise your hand. How many of you have heard of the 80s? Okay, couple. Okay, just making sure we're awake here too. So I love the 80s. There's a decade that we all relate to the most. You know, it's been said that, you know, it's that decade where it could have been the clothes, the hair, the music, all of those things that you just resonate with. Well, for me, that's the 80s. I'm sure you can all think of yours. So what's the very first thing that you think of when you think of the 80s? Just shout it out. Music. What? Big hair. What else? MTV. Yes. So funny. I remember the day MTV launched. Does anybody else remember that? I was glued to the TV. What else do you think of when you think of the 80s?
Slinky bracelets.
Slinky bracelets? Oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about that in years. Yes. Anything else?
Michael Jackson moonwalk.
Michael Jackson moonwalk. Jose, can you do it?
No.
Oh. All right, ladies, how many of you had leg warmers? Oh, yes. Mine were hot pink. What about yours, Sherry? Hot pink, too, yeah. Guys, who in the room is brave enough to admit you have parachute pants? Woo, some brave men. I love it. Do you still have yours, Gordon?
No.
Oh, come on. They melted. Little zippers. Anyway, I love the 80s. Obviously, I'm not here to talk about the 80s, and you're probably wondering why the heck are we talking about the 80s? Well, something happened to me in the 80s. In fact, it was 1989, and I was just getting ready to go off to college. And in fact, I looked a little bit something like this. Oh, that's funny, I got an awe. Usually I get like a laugh, like, oh, wow, that was bad. Yeah, I straighten it now. Anyway, I discovered my seeds of greatness in 1989, and let me just share real briefly what that looked like. So I was getting ready to go off to college, and I live in the Dallas area. My college I was going to was only 30 minutes away, UNT, and my parents were proud of me, you know, getting ready to go off to college, and they wanted to give me a gift to kind of send me off on my way, and they made such a big deal about it, and, you know, tonight we're going to give you your gift, and by the way, I had been waiting for a car all through high school. So I could not wait. I mean, it was the most like, I was calling all my girlfriends, like, tonight's the night, I'm getting my car, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And my parents, you know, built it all up like, Michelle, this gift is gonna take you places. And I'm like, yes, it will. It'll take me out of town. I can't wait to get it. This gift is gonna change your life. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. And I'm thinking, it's a convertible. It's got to be a convertible, right? It's going to change my life. It's going to be the envy of all my friends was the next thing they said. Michelle, this gift is a ticket to a seminar. That's kind of what I did. I mean, just pure, like, open mouth, you know, no words coming out. I'm kidding. I really am not kidding you. They were sending me to a seminar, but it wasn't just any seminar. It was a motivational seminar. I'm 18 years old. I don't want to be motivated. Anyone have teenagers in the room? Know what I'm talking about? Yes, yes. Well, I went to this seminar, and it literally changed my life. It was a seminar called Born to Win, and it was hosted by this guy named Zig Ziglar. Who's ever heard of Zig Ziglar? All right. Well, I had never heard of Zig Ziglar. I certainly didn't want to spend 3 days with him, but I go to this event, and it changed my life. In fact, it was so much like this scenario right now. It was round tables as far as the eye can see, people from all over the world coming in, hundreds and hundreds of people to this seminar. I was 18. My brother was just 21 or so. He went with me. And we walk into this place, and I kid you not, we were the youngest people in this conference by decades. At the time, I thought, I hate my parents. They know this story, so that's okay if I say that. I don't really hate them. But we were both like, this is not good. This is not good. But if anyone's ever been, who's been to Born to Win? Or experienced Zig Ziglar in some way? By the end of those 3 days, I was a changed person. I had I got over the fact that I went kicking and screaming and I didn't want to be there. But by the end of it, I was so just engrossed in it. You know when you go to an event and you're just like on fire and you're like, oh my gosh, the speaker's talking to me. And you're so pumped up and so excited. And so that's how I was. And at the end of the 3 days, I remember I couldn't wait to stand in line to get my book signed, just like we did with Mike this morning. And I was just waiting and waiting and waiting to go up and talk to Mr. Ziglar. And I get up there and I shake his hand and I try to tell him how much I enjoyed it and I loved it. And then before I could even say it, it just came out of my mouth and I said, I'm going to work for you one day. You just wait and see. And then I was like, oh, did I really just say that? Trying to pull it back. But I really did. And it's this passion thing I can't really explain other than, have you ever been in a situation where you can't explain it, but you know in your gut, you just know that you know that you know that you know? I just had this feeling that some way, somehow, I was going to be associated with Zig Ziglar. But it wasn't about him as a man. It was about the opportunity to motivate, inspire, and encourage. And that passion, I found it at 18. I didn't even know what the word was. I just knew that I loved it, and it was like coming out of my pores, and I just couldn't wait to go out and motivate people and inspire people and just be the best me that I could be. That was on a Sunday that it ended. On Monday, I went to college, literally. Drove up to UNT, and I spent the next 4.5 years in college. Now, I'll be honest with you. I was a typical college girl. So by the time I graduated, I'd kind of forgotten about that whole little comment that I made to Zig about working for him one day. And I was in my very first sales job. So I graduated college, got this job. Now, I really don't want to brag, but I was in copier sales. How great is that? Anyone ever sell copiers? Okay, this is the most blessed group ever. No, it was truly the worst job of my life, the longest 6 months of my life. The only good thing that came out of that job of 6 months was I was cold calling in Carrollton, Texas, true story. I had to go door to door to businesses and knock on the door to try to sell a copier. And I didn't know where I was going one day. They just give me an address, and I go to this building, and it's in this office park area, and it says, I walk up to the building, it says, the Zig Ziglar Corporation at the top of the building. I literally was like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to work here. I didn't even know you were headquartered in Dallas. We didn't have Google back then to just check where somebody was headquartered. And immediately it all came back like, that's right, I'm supposed to work here. And I got all excited and I ran inside and there was this wonderful woman behind the desk and I was like, oh my gosh, is this where Zig Ziglar really works? And she just smiled. And I said, do you have any job openings? Because I will do anything to work here. And she said, well, actually, we're about to close. We're about to finalize a position for a salesperson. If you're interested, send us your resume. Now, keep in mind, those 6 months in copier sales, I made a promise to myself that I would get out of that job as fast as I could, and I would never be in sales again. Can anyone relate to what I'm talking about? Well, we do have all business owners here. You're all salespeople, so nobody can relate. Okay, moving on. Well, no, really, I really did not want to be in sales anymore, and if that was the only opportunity. So I remember going home to my apartment, typing up my very first resume, and the only thing I had on it was 6 months of copier sales experience. Not so impressive, not what lands you a job at Ziglar. But it's a long story short. I did interview, I did get the job, and I know that experience, by the way, does not get you a job at Ziglar. So I know it was because that passion, that there was that spark, something that, when you set your mind toward what you want in life, you really have no way of not going in the direction of what you think about, truthfully. It's one of the reasons why it's so important to set goals and be very clear on what you want, because your mind is just like a computer, and it will go in that direction, just like a GPS. Right? I live in Dallas. When I come to Houston, I typically drive. I flew this time, but typically I put in my GPS, this hotel, and my point A is where I start in McKinney, Texas. My point B is 8181 Airport Boulevard. And as long as I get here and within 4.5 hours, I'm pretty happy. I don't even care what roads it takes me on. But what would happen if I just programmed in Houston, Texas? McKinney to Houston. I'd get here, right? No big deal. I'd get to Houston. But I would still be driving around the Beltway if I didn't program in that specific address, right? Your mind is exactly the same way. And when you are very specific with what you want to accomplish, you have no option but to go in the direction. Now, you're going to take U-turns. You're going to have some detours and things along the way. But ultimately, you will always end up where you want to go and why you want to be specific with your goals. Don't just say you want to be successful. You've got to be very specific with what that means. So I'm sharing all that to say, I ended up working for Zig, and it was the best experience of my life. Please don't judge the hair and the outfits. This is just some pictures through the years. But I only worked at the corporate office for 3.5, almost 4 years. That's it. And I was in sales for Zig Ziglar, for the company. I sold training, I sold Zig, I sold tapes, I sold books. And you know what? Every single day, I was living my passion because I was making a difference. But at around 1990, dating myself here, it was around 97, I got a call from a recruiter. And it was around the time of the dot-com boom, you know, where technology and that whole area was huge. And I got this opportunity to be in technology and software sales. And it would talk about dangling this golden carrot. And I remember sitting down. I was actually talking to my dad. And I was like, Dad, what do I do? Do I follow my passion? Or do I follow the money? Passion, money. What do you think won? Money. Yeah, I quit. I quit Zig Ziglar. Any of you have ever met the family, you know all this, you're probably thinking, why would anybody do that? I would not be standing here today sharing with you had I stayed. So it's the best thing that ever happened. But I had to learn a lot of lessons. So fast forward, I ended up working in the real corporate America for the next 13 years. And I was successful. And if anyone who knew me at the time, from the outside looking in, they probably thought I had it all together. You know, I was climbing this corporate ladder. I was making great money. I'd started a family at this time, and I was dropping them off at daycare crack of dawn, and I was picking them up late at night, and I was miserable. Absolutely miserable. Because one thing I've learned through the years, the farther you are from your passion, it's almost impossible to be truly, truly happy and content and joyful. And one of the things through these 13 years that I kept, you know, there were 3 words that kept coming to my mind when I thought about what do I want to be, what do I want to do, what do I want to have. And I'd always say, I want to motivate and inspire and encourage. Couldn't figure out how, but I just knew it was that. And so it was 2008. I was at another live event. By the way, those of you who don't realize this yet, live events change lives. When you are in the presence of other people and energy like this and ideas and things flowing, that's when things start to shift. And I was sitting at a conference in Dallas, Texas, only there to support my speaker friend who I worked with at Ziglar, just to sell her books for her. And I'm in the back of this room, and all of a sudden I just had this epiphany moment, kind of like the one I had at 18, but this time it was very different. You see, for those 13 years in corporate America, I secretly wanted to write a book. I had no idea what I'd say, but I kept thinking, I want to write a book. I want to write a book. And every time I would allow myself to get excited enough to say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to write a book. Boom. That negative self-talk would stop me and say, oh, no, you're not. Who do you think you are? You're no Zig Ziglar. Until one day in 2008, I decided to change the dialogue. And I said, instead of not, who do you think you are? I said, why not me? Why not me?
I like that.
And why not you? Because here's the deal with me. I'm no different than anyone. Those who get to know me, you know this. I'm no different than anyone in this room. I just happen to just jump toward, open those little packet of seeds and sprinkle them. I wrote a book in 2008 with my only intention of sharing it with my kids and my husband and those that I really love, just to share my story. And so my first book was called Winning in Life Now, How to Break Through to a Happier You. And I'll just give you the preview before you read it. It's not a story about my life being perfect. It's actually far from it. But it's how I use personal development through the ups and downs of life and through in a couple things of what it was like working for Zig. And that was it. And he even wrote the foreword to the book. It was an amazing experience. I felt so, so fortunate. We published the book. I held it in my hand, and no one knew. I literally didn't tell more than 5 people. I could count on one hand how many people knew I wrote a book. It was Zig who wrote the foreword. And then one day somebody called me out and they said, Michelle, you know, you talk a lot about wanting to make a difference and helping people and all of this, but you can't help anyone unless you tell your story. And it was one of those like, whoa, you know, like, oh, because I didn't want it to make it about me. Because I was thinking, well, if you write a book, I mean, I was so against even having my picture on it. I'm like, well, I don't want it to be about me. No, you got to step into your greatness. You got to own it. Because no one's going to do it for you, right? So I said, you know what? She's right. She's absolutely right. I say all this, but yet I'm doing nothing about it. Thank you. I am from New Jersey, too, but that didn't scare me the way it did Mike. I've been around here too long. So I did that, and the fast forward the story, I decided to make an effort to launch the book. And so we did this whole marketing campaign, and we launched it the first day. We launched it. It hit bestseller in 2 categories, which opened up all kinds of opportunities for me. But it wasn't just that. It literally opened up a full-time business that this is what I get to do every day as my job. But it never would have happened if I didn't write my book, if I didn't tell my story. And now getting to go and speak and share with groups like you all, of course. I mean, this is my special group because I love this community, and I will serve this community as long as I can. But I do get to go and get paid to speak to a lot of corporations and a lot of organizations because this is what I love to do. And then, of course, the biggest honor, you know my story now. It started at 18 with me just telling Zig, I'm going to work for you one day. But it was more than just a job. It was that mission. I wanted to be a part of that mission to make a difference. So now, fast forward, it's come full circle because now I get to do that. As a Ziglar Legacy Certified Trainer, but also as a Ziglar Brand Ambassador, which really just means is that I just have a love to share the legacy of Zig Ziglar. But it's not about me, and it's not about Zig. I share all that just to paint the picture to let you know, again, I'm no different than you. I just took one step and told my story. So what about you? What is your story? What is your story? What is it that you can share with someone else that will make an impact professionally or personally, or both? But what is that? Before you can really know your story, you have to have some clarity. You have to get clear on what you want first, right? And all of you are here for different reasons, so I can't answer this. So for you, just answer it for yourself. What do you really want? Some of you are here because you want your business to have explosive growth. You want this, next year to be the biggest year you've ever had. Awesome. Maybe some of you are here because you want to have more credibility. You do want to have that differentiating marketing factor or something that's going to separate you from your competition. Some of you want to be that go-to authority in your niche. If you're an attorney or something, you want to be the person that they call when they need somebody to talk on the topic of any authority on that subject of whatever it is. A lot of you just want to help more people. Some of you might want to attract more opportunities. Maybe you have a great business now, but you're looking to maybe go out and speak, or maybe you want to do some consulting, or you're looking for things that will give you that leverage and that credibility to help you to do that. How many of you would like to have multiple revenue streams? More than what you have today? Okay, let me say that again. How many of you would like more money? It's a profits conference, right? Profits first. Look, money is going to be a natural part of this process when you create multiple revenue streams. It's not about the money, but again, the more money you help, the more people you can help. How many of you would like to make a difference? By a show of hands, truly, at the heart of why you do what you do, is it because you want to make a difference in your family, your community, or your clients? I know that's the case for this group. Here's what I know more. If you want to make a difference, you got to tell your story. It's just that simple. So this is the workshop part of it. I want to help you all find your story. So I do an event a couple times, now only just once or twice a year, called Bookbound. And in Bookbound, we do an exercise to help you figure out, well, what would you write about? What is your story? And it's amazing because people come from all over the world, and some people are like, I don't have a story. I don't have anything to say. And by the end of this exercise and a few other exercises, they have so much clarity on what their story is, and then we go and we map it and have it all done the very first day. But I want to help you figure out, what is your story? So, Victoria, would you mind passing out the handouts? And we're going to do this right now. So while they're passing this out, you're going to get a sheet of paper, and it's just a T chart, and it looks exactly like this, okay? And on the left-hand side of the T, you're going to write the word passion. And on the other side of the T, you're going to write the word experience. And I'll give it just a second for you to get your paper and a pen before I move forward. Do you all have any yet? No? Okay. I don't want to move forward yet until you get this, because this is the part you're going to want to write down. But if you have your paper, go ahead. On the left-hand side, write the word passion, and the right-hand side, write experience. But don't do anything else. I'll walk you through this. Raise your hand if you still do not have one. Oh. Okay. I tell you what, if those of you, how many of you, several of you have been to Bookbound. If you have done this exercise already, would you be willing to share your piece of paper with somebody over on this side of the room? That way we can have for those who have never done this exercise. And then we'll get you a copy, I promise. But you can follow along even until you have a piece of paper. Okay, so what does this really mean? Your story is a combination between your passions, right? What do you love? What lights you up? And your experiences. And it's that intersection between the two that is your story. Okay? So all we're going to do right now is focus on the left-hand side of that T-chart, and that is your passions. So grab your pen, and I want you to write down as many things that you're passionate about as possible. Do not think of this in terms of a book yet, okay? This has nothing to do with a book yet. This is just, what are you passionate about? Do you love to travel? Do you love politics? Are you passionate about personal development like I am? Are you passionate about kids, cooking? What are you passionate about? What do you love to do? Do you love to manage people, inspire people, teach? Anything that comes to mind that you're passionate about or that lights you up or that you love doing, write it down on the left-hand side of the T. Okay, even if you're still working, I'm gonna talk about just to give you some examples, some of my passions. So you already know my story. I am passionate about personal development. If you ever see me in a bookstore, you will know exactly what section to find me in. It will be personal development or professional development. Those are mine. By the way, that's just a side note. You can tell a lot about a person based on where they end up in a bookstore. Think about that. Do you end up in the cooking section, the travel section? Are you in the business section? Are you in the personal development section? Anyway, just a side note. But that's one of my passions, very passionate about personal development. I am so passionate about the beach. It's one of the reasons why when my event that I do, Bookbound by the Sea, I decided many years ago that I'm like, you know what, this is my company and I can go and do my business wherever I want, so I'm going to the beach. So we do it in January at one of the most warmest places in the U.S. in Captiva Island, Florida. Well, here's the deal. So Howard and I, this is the funny story of Howard and I, when we started becoming friends, everything was like, oh my gosh, me too, me too. We both, Destin, Seaside specifically, like that 30A area of Destin, is both of our favorite beaches in the world, of all things. So we have that in common. But Captiva Island is number 2 for both of us. Although Dave Kaufman's trying to get Sarasota in there somewhere for Howard. Siesta Key is pretty cool too. No, Captiva is absolutely beautiful. But I love the beach. And the reason I love it is obviously I'm just a beach girl, but there's something about the beach. I am so creative there. I am so in tune with myself. When I'm out there, I'm just in my own skin, if that makes any sense. So that's a passion of mine. I am very passionate about live events and seminars. I'm kind of a seminar junkie, you know. I love them. I'm passionate about people that love them too, because those are just like-minded individuals. I am passionate about pugs. How many of you know what a pug is? Where's my friend with the dogs? Oh my goodness. Well, I'm pointing at you. Where's your puppy? Down below. Okay. Well, it's not a pug, but it's cute. She's cute. He's cute. No, I'm just kidding. I love pugs. I have 2 pugs, Zoe and Rex. Rex is actually a puppy. He's an absolute terror. We call him Rexzilla because he's that bad. But I still love those dogs. I'm very passionate about babies. I am definitely, I love babies. I should have a daycare at some point in my life because I love spending time with little babies. And I'm very passionate about my faith. And I could go on and on and on, but those are just some key things for me. So hopefully you all have a good list for your own. So now let's change things and focus on the other side of the T-chart. And really, I want you to erase your mind of anything passion-wise because your experience may or may not be anything to do with passion. So your experience is everything that you have been through in life. It could be professionally, personally, it's all of the above. So for example, maybe you have experience as a manager, or maybe you have experience in real estate, or maybe you have experience in sales like I do. Or maybe you've had some experiences in your life that you didn't necessarily want to experience. Maybe you've been through a divorce. Maybe you've had bankruptcy. Maybe you have had some sort of an abuse. Things you didn't enjoy, but they're still part of your experience. They're part of your story. Your story is your story is your story. So the purpose of this, again, this is not for the purpose of a book yet. All we're doing is write down everything you can think of that you have experienced. Do you have experience as a mom, as a dad? Do you have experience as a speaker? Do you have experience in Taekwondo? Where do you have experience? What have you been through? Ready, set, grow. Okay, while you're finishing that side of the T-chart, I'll go ahead and share some of my experiences so you get an idea. So I do have a lot of experience in sales. You heard my story about working for Zig in sales. I went on to be in software sales for most of my career. As a business owner, we're all in sales. But I do have a lot of experience with true sales, business-to-business sales. I also have a lot of experience. Well, one of my experiences was working for Zig. That was an extraordinary experience, right? Something that was very unique. And I'm very honored and humbled to have worked for him. But that is an experience. I have to put it down because it's something that It shaped who I am. I am a mom. I have 2 teenage boys. I have an 18-year-old who's a senior in high school, and I have a 14-year-old who's a freshman in high school, and it's a very fun, challenging time all at the same time, but I'm blessed to be a mom. Believe it or not, I was a dancer back in the day, a long, long time ago. I got to do some pretty cool things, like dance for the Queen of England and do all kinds of stuff, and yeah, that was a long time ago. I moved around a lot as a child. Kind of, not necessarily something I wanted to do, but it did shape a lot of who I am because of that. I have experience. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. And I put this on the list, not something I'm proud of, but I want to share it with you just to kind of explain that just because you didn't like it doesn't mean it's not something you experienced. I had a really low self-esteem most of my childhood. Definitely from through junior high and a good part of high school. I'm not really sure where it came from, but a lot of our beliefs are based on what people say or do and friends and all that. But it shaped my decisions. So that low self-esteem it's an experience of mine. So those are my experiences. Hopefully by now you have a list for your own. Now, what do we do with these? This is where it's key. Because your story is not just what you're passionate about. I know we would love for it to be. We just want to talk about what we love. But that's not always the case. And your story is certainly not just the stuff you've been through, because just because you went through it doesn't mean that's who you are. But here's what I know. Your mess is your message. Your test is your testimony. And what you go through becomes part of your story, but only if there's passion with it. So what you're going to do now is try to find an intersection. Where can you draw a line from the left-hand side of the T-chart to the right where you have passion and experience? And here's what I mean by that. So on my passion side, I love personal development. I'm passionate about it. And I work for Zig Ziglar. Those things go together. I also, in that same thing with personal development, I had low self-esteem. Why is that a connection? Because I use personal development to get over my low self-esteem. You see the connection there? That is a perfect book. It just happened to be my first book, Winning in Life Now, How to Break Through to a Happier You. It was all about a personal development book about my story of overcoming low self-esteem and some of the things I learned from Zig. That's an idea for a book. Here's some other ideas, though, connections. So I love babies. I mean, I do. I am that crazy baby lady. I'm that person in the mall or something that wants to come and grab your baby. I love them. I'm passionate about them. But I also have experience. So if ever I did want to write a book and do something for, helping young moms or moms of teens or something like that, I have the experience and the passion. Also, I love seminars, like-minded people, and I have the experience of being an author and a speaker. Those things go hand in hand. And this is part of what I share when I talk about one of my programs called Speaker Bound. So finding a connection of something that you enjoy, you're passionate about, and where you have experience is the key to your story. So you're going to take a minute or two right now, and you're going to try to draw a line. And you will, if you've done this correctly, you will probably have multiple lines to multiple things. But what we're trying to do is find a connection. Ready, set, go. Can we get a mic just to run? Because what I'd like to do now is, who would like to share a connection that came out of that maybe you were aware of already, or maybe it was confirmation of your story? Who would like to share? Raise your hand. Yes. Oh, Brenda, come on over. Hold on one second. Alexandra's coming with the mic.
Thanks. Well, I thought what was really interesting with this exercise is that my passion and experience tied together all the way across the board. So everything that I do in my life that's important comes out of my passion, and it shows up on both sides of the board. So this is great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Brenda. And yes, let's give her a hand. And Brenda, if you don't know her story, is passionate about helping people and building confidence in people. And oh, by the way, she happens to be very, very, very high up and sought after Taekwondo grandmaster. Is that correct? Yes. So see how it ties together. Who else? Who else wants to share what came out of that for you? Raise your hand. Yes, right over here. Excuse
me. Never in a million years did I think I'd talk, let alone share this. But caring for and inspiring others has been a passion my whole life. And I'm looking at 10 lines that all intersect back to caring and inspiring.
Wow.
From my experience. And not thinking that being a nurse and being a manager, going through divorce, going through rape and domestic violence and cross-country moves and mother of twins, and all of those things would relate back to caring for and inspiring others.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. You know, I want to give you kudos for sharing that, because you're not alone. I can assure you, in a room like this, of all of the different things we experience. And a lot of times we think of it like, well, how does that have to do with anything? And who wants to hear about my story? Nobody cares about your story unless they understand how they can learn from you, and how you know, if you've been through those things and maybe you've overcome them and now you're on the other end and able to inspire people. I look at life like this. It's kind of like I'm a very visual person. It's kind of crazy. And I visualize walking down a road, you know, like walking down this big gravel road. Eventually it ends up, you know, the other side of the sky. And we're all walking on this road, right? And some of us, we're just a couple steps of other people. But when you turn around and share what you just learned on that last part of the journey, you help these people and you inspire these people. And you know, it can be personally, but it can also be professionally. What have you learned? You know, maybe you're in the dentistry field, or maybe you're an attorney or something like that, and maybe you've learned a couple things along the way that you can now share with others who are just a few steps behind. That is the power of your story. And everyone has it. And one more person, anybody else want to share what came out of that for you? Susan, yes, let's give her a hand. Woohoo!
Okay, I too was I don't know if I did it right. I have multiple lines to multiple things on both sides, okay? But the things that got the most points were my greatest blessing, my 11 children, and my greatest heartache. I too was a victim of domestic violence, and my marriage fell apart about 10 years ago. But then the things on my passion side that got the greatest points were relationships, very important to me, and my faith. It's carried me through all this.
Yeah. And taking that, so for other people, this is how I always think of it too, like somebody who's in domestic violence that really doesn't understand yet there is light at the end of the tunnel. You know, they're still in that darkness of realizing like, wow, okay, not only can we get out of this, we can go on and be so much better. And these are two personal examples. But it also works for your business too, you know, and it's, so just to start thinking of it. And obviously this is not a 3-day seminar, and I need to move forward. This is what we do at Bookbound. But this is just a glimpse into what your story is, because you have to know your story. You can't make a difference to anybody unless you tell your story. So that's your story. So now let's forward on to the second point of what to do to build a profitable platform, is you got to leverage your story. Right, so taking that story that you were just starting to get some ideas of, you know, again, part of what we would teach you at Bookbound is, okay, now what do you do with it? Well, I would hope that you would put it in a book, but you don't have to put it in a book. You see, it's not about a book. It's just not. That's just paper. It's about your story. Now, a book, though, happens to be one of the greatest tools to impact the most amount of people because, number one, you can easily get it in the hands of people you never meet. But number two, what I started with, when you are an author, people instantly see you as the expert. They instantly see you as the credible source. And they instantly see you as, wow, he must know what he's talking about. So it's that leverage now of, okay, you've got this great story. You have the ability to go out and impact other people. What do you do with it? Well, I am a firm believer that your book is your business card. And if you want to look at this in any other way, or if you want to even go aside from the story part of it and just look at a book as a marketing tool, it is the #1 marketing tool. You know why? People will throw out your business card. I'm sure some of you in here have thrown out business cards before. But you will not throw away a book. Or very rarely do you throw away a book. So when you take your message, you take your story, you take what you put on your website, you take what you're putting on your company collateral and brochures, and you bind it, and you're instantly a published author, it's just totally different. You're no longer trying to sell your services. It's you are now automatically, it's an automatic sale. So this is my business card, literally. This is a little book. If you didn't get a chance to pick one of these up yet, please do. But please drop your business card because it's an exchange of value, right? But this book is my business card. I never sell this. I give it away. I give it away to everyone because you know what? It's adding value. And so if you sat down and read this book in the restroom, which you could probably finish in a pretty quick amount of time, it would literally give you everything you need to know to get started. How do you find your story? How do you get it out of your head and onto paper? What are the steps in the publishing process? And how do I build an author platform? That's all in here. Now, not in a whole lot of detail, but this is my business card, and you know what the whole sole purpose is to get people to understand the value that I can provide to them, and hopefully they're going to come to my workshop or hopefully work with our publishing company. But you could do the same thing. Now, this is just a little mini book. We do these all day long, but it could be a mini book. You could have a chapter in a book. You could do your own book, but never underestimate the power this brings. Even if it's verbatim what you say to your customers in a proposal, I assure you it will stand out. I literally just got a phone call about a week ago from somebody who I spoke at an event, and I usually give these away when I speak at events. And I don't even remember what the event was, to be honest. It wasn't one of these. Anyway, she called me up, and she's going to hire us to publish her book. And I said, because I knew I hadn't met her before, I'm like, how do you know about me? How did you hear about me? And she's like, your book has been sitting on my desk for like the last 9 months. I couldn't throw it away, literally. And I was like, oh, this works. I knew it did. But her point was, she threw away all the business cards from that conference, but then mine was sitting on her desk, but she realized she had a story. She realized she wanted to leverage it, and so she called me. That could be happening with you and your customers. We did a book project. There's probably not many in here still, but how many of you were part of the book project we did years ago called Nightmare Carpet Cleaners? Everything you need to know before you hire a carpet cleaner. Not a whole lot, because this isn't just cleaning companies in here. But anyway, we did a book project for this, and there were probably about 20 or 30 authors. Each had their own book. And so basically it was a book about everything you need to know before hiring a carpet cleaner, intended for their referral sources. This is not a book someone would go in the bookstore to buy, you know. So they gave it away as their business card. And gosh, I forget his name. Goodness gracious. The one from a Louisiana character, I can't think of his name. Anyway, he stood up at a chamber event. We did this book. And the back of the book, by the way, the whole purpose is it's pointing them to realize that the natural next step is to do business with his carpet cleaning company, because they don't do all of these other things that these bad companies do. And they put in coupons and all that. And he stood up at a chamber meeting one day and introduced himself. He's like, I'm the author of Nightmare Carpet Cleaning. He's like, I literally wrote the book on carpet cleaning and upholstery cleaning and all this stuff. And he got so much business and opportunities from that. Why? It wasn't about the book, but it was about that authority. Gosh, if he wrote a book about it, he must be the authority. Are you starting to see what I mean here? And he is, because he is a professional in what he does in his niche area. So how can you leverage your story? There is something that I'm just going to share with you what I did. So when I started, the first thing I did was I started by writing a book. This is just a map, not to overwhelm you, but just to give you an idea of opportunities. It's not just about a book, but the multiple revenue streams that we talked about earlier, this is an opportunity to do this. Now, I don't mean that this is all you do, but what if you had a book that you could sell, a physical book that you could sell for $20, right? Howard's books, all of these, he has those books. Then you also take that book, the same contents, it's the same message. Your message is your message. You put it in a physical book, one revenue stream. You put it in an ebook, another revenue stream. Actually, let me do a little survey. By a show of hands, I'm really curious. Think about how you learn best. How many of you learn best, meaning you absorb content best when you're reading? Raise your hand. Okay, great. How many of you learn best when you're listening? You have to hear the audio, maybe a podcast or CDs or something like that. Okay, that's how you retain information. Excellent. How many of you learn best at a live event, like experiential, experiencing it and all? Okay, that's definitely me. I absorb information best when I'm in a live event. How many of you learn best or are most successful when you have a coach? Somebody that's working with you one-on-one to walk you through. Okay, I love this. So just in this room, did you notice all the different learning styles that are in here? If you only write a book, you are missing out on a huge amount of people that could benefit from your material if you only put it in a book. So the platform is really not about a book and all that. It's about how can you get your message out to the people that need to hear it most, out to your clients that need to know about you most. And you do it this way. So there's the ebook, physical book, 2 different revenue streams, but that is for the reader. Taking that same information and putting it on an audio, putting it on a podcast, or creating CDs, which no one uses CDs anymore, so digital downloads. But basically, taking that book content, what I literally did when I started my business is I had my book chapters, and I went through my book and I took my best 4 chapters, and I sat on a webinar and I recorded myself. No one else on the line. I just recorded myself, not reading it, but just explaining the power of belief, setting goals, all of the things in the book. And then I took those 4 audio programs and I popped them all together and I created a little home study course. So instead of selling my book for $20, I now had a $47 home study course or CD pack. Or individually, each one of those CDs I would sell for $10. Same content, because your message has value, just in different formats. DVDs, anytime you ever get an opportunity to speak, even if it's at a chamber event with 5 people, you record it. You get somebody like an Andy to videotape you, and then you take that video recording, and then you can produce that into a DVD to sell, to give away. I have a DVD called Busy Being Busy, because I talk a lot about productivity. And the first time I ever did the presentation was actually at a Ziglar Howard event in Nashville years ago. How many were at that event? Awesome. Okay, well, that was my first time to do that presentation. We recorded it, and then I created it into a DVD, and when I go and I speak and I sell my books, I sell a DVD. I mean, just some ideas. Home study courses is just taking single individual CDs, packing them all together. Webinars, teleseminars, you can do the same thing by getting that message out. Doing a teleseminar for your customers or for your prospects on the value of what you can provide. Live events, again, never underestimate the power of a live event. Doesn't have to be a 3-day conference, but why not do a lunch and learn? Why not do an evening workshop? 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 days, doesn't matter. You can figure out what that is. Coaching, consulting, whatever you do. You see, we value information. We really do as a society. It's why Google is the #1 website, right? Search engine, because we value information. We're constantly looking. So if you can have information and work with someone one-on-one, like Brenda and a couple other people said they work best with a coach, then you can break that same content down and help them. True story. I'll just share this real quick. So when I first wrote the book, I think I told you I didn't tell anyone about it. I was very reluctant. I certainly was not a business owner mindset back then. And I started speaking, and I started getting calls to do things, so I kind of started a business without really trying. But I got a call one day from somebody who had my book. Somebody bought her the book somehow she got my book. She was in Michigan, Minnesota, somewhere up there. And she called me up and she said, "Michelle, I read your book. I want to hire you as my coach." And I said, "Well, I don't coach. I mean, I just wrote a book." And she said, no, seriously, I'm wanting somebody to mentor me, hold me accountable, walk me through. That's how I learn best. I really want to pay you to be my coach. I kid you not. I said this to her. I said, "Why would you pay me to coach you when everything I would tell you is in the book you already have?" I really said that. I have since learned a lot. but it was and she reiterated the point. She's like, "That's how I learn best. It's valuable to me." And so I, of course, said, "Okay, yes, I'll be your coach." And she was my coach for almost a year and a half, or she was my client for almost a year and a half. And what's funny, even more funny, is I was coaching her on weight loss, which I know nothing about. But I do know about goal setting, and I know about holding someone accountable, and that's what we did. So your value to people, don't underestimate it. It's your message. Put it in the format that people need most. And then, of course, you can package all these things and provide them at value. But these are just some of the ways to build a platform. And again, you do not need to have any desire to be in the training business, the coaching business, or a speaker. But if you look at even Mike being up here, his business is not full-time speaking, probably. Well, of course it's not. We know what it is. But he has books. He told you to go download this, so to get you on his list. He has all of these other things just like this to provide you value in different ways. So that's how you leverage your story. Make sense? Yep. Yes. Okay. All right. I want to know, who is ready to tell their story? I don't mean like right now. You're not going to stand up and do it. But seriously, after all of that we've gone through, who is a little bit more convinced that you have a story and that you could make an impact to your business, to your professional life, your community, or even to your family? Raise your hand. I really want to see. I really want to know who has that in them. That's awesome. And I know more of you do, but truly, I'm so excited because the more you get to know me, you'll know more of this. If I can do this, you can do this. It's not rocket science, but you do need to know the process. And so one of the reasons Howard asked me to come up, of course, is he wanted me to get you all invited to Bookbound. And Bookbound by the Sea is coming up. And I will tell you, it is the only Bookbound I'm doing in 2018 for personal reasons. All is well, but I usually do it January and June. June, my son is graduating from high school, and I'm not going to do anything to take away from that precious, precious time in our family's life. But January is my favorite one because we do it at the beach. So it's Bookbound by the Sea. So let me tell you a little bit about it. How many of you have been to Bookbound or Bookbound by the Sea before? Okay, we have several of you. Awesome. It is an awesome event, and I'm not just saying that because I do. It's the people that come. If you like the community of Howard's group here and Ziglar, you will love it as well because it's really just people that really are ready to make a difference. That's what it's all about, and you can make a difference in your personal life, your professional life. But we do it at this amazing resort called the South Seas Island Resort, and it's just absolutely beautiful. We do it there because I don't want you to feel like you're coming to a conference. I want you to come have an experience because when your mind is free, when you're less stressed, you're going to be more creative. And there is nothing to do in Captiva Island, Florida, but, go to the beach and go eat, so it's an opportunity for you to do that. So I have a short video just to show you what the resort's like. Okay, perfect. Alexandra's going to play it. Thank you. So it's a really cool atmosphere. It's one of those types of things where we tell people bring your family or come a couple days early, stay a couple days late if you want. But join us January 26th through the 28th. And we have a special invitation. In fact, if you've seen my table already, you probably already saw it, but we're doing something really special. It's $597 for the conference, but it's buy one, get one free. So you can bring anyone with you. You can bring your spouse, you can bring your son, your daughter. We had, just this last one, I think the youngest person there was, 10 years old? I forget how old she was. She was young. And we've had people up in their 90s. So bring whoever you want. It's absolutely a life-changing weekend. And I'll just say this. Yes, you will learn how to publish a book. Yes, you will know how to build an author platform. But it's not about a book. It's about your story. And it's about discovering those seeds of greatness within you and then finally having a plan and the courage to let them out of the packet. That's what it's all about. And if you can't attend, it's not a problem. I'm just kicking this off. This is the first audience to even hear about it. But we've taken, with the help of Andy in the back, my good friend, we have created a Bookbound online, which is for those of you who can't make it live, because I realize the dates don't work. And so this is a digital course. So everything that we do at the live event is also available to you with all the worksheets and everything else. And it's lifetime access. It's only $297. So that's an option for you. Outside, I have these. Who's ready to take advantage of this? Who would like to? Awesome. All right, well, actually, the first few people who say that, I'm going to give this to you, and I'm going to give you an extra special bonus for the first people that do this. George. Oh, he's already filled it out. Even better. Let's give him a hand. I love it. Who else wants to take advantage of it? One for you. Awesome. Anyone else? Okay. Well, what we're going to do is I'm going to wrap up, and then we're not going to pass out the forms. See me at my table if you're interested, and we'll get you signed up. So I want to wrap with the last thing. So the 3 ways to build a profitable platform were what? Number 1, tell your story. Number 2, leverage your story. And number 3, step into your greatness now. Because life's too short, truthfully. There is never going to be a better time, ever. So do it now. I put together something that I've been working on for a little while. In fact, this was blossomed one time at a Howard conference. I was emceeing, and you know how I was up a little late here a minute ago with Scott? Well, I had one of those, brainstorm moments, and I was just really creative, and I was sitting thinking, I think the question was, what do you really do? How do you serve your clients? And I was trying to figure out, well, what is it I really do? Because it's not just about a book, right? There's more to it. And I came up with, this was an instant download. And I'm about to share with you, but then I was able to, I'm like, oh, wow. And I thought, well, life's a game. Let's have a little fun along the journey. And these phrases and these words just worked out absolutely perfectly, and this literally came out in a period of about 10 minutes, and I want to share it with you. Although it didn't take long to create, it is absolutely something that I think will help you to be more successful in life. So the first principle of success is passion. I already talked a lot about passion. Why? Because passion is the foundation of everything. If you do not have passion, you will not. It is impossible to be really, truly fulfilled and live a life of legacy and significance. It has to include passion. So finding your story for your book, it's not just about that. It's the story of your life. What is it you love to do? Finding that passion is so crucial. Why? Because your passion is a clue. It's not the end-all be-all. It's a clue. It's a clue to your purpose. You see, your passion, what lights you up, what excites you, is a clue to why you're here. We all have gifts. We all have things. We all have a purpose. We don't have to share the same spiritual beliefs to know that we all have a purpose. We're here on this earth for a reason. I just personally happen to believe that God has given us a purpose, and I just personally happen to believe that he's a pretty nice guy, and he wouldn't give us a purpose that we hated. Would he? Think about that. Thank you. Right. So if we have a purpose, why we're here, and you don't know what it is, well, then look at the clues. It's your passion. Your passion will show you your purpose. And that purpose is knowing why you're here. It's knowing your seeds of greatness. It's knowing what to do with them. Actually, it's just knowing you have them. That's the first step. So your passion will lead to your purpose. But your purpose, when you know your purpose, that will lead to your priorities. I do a lot of speaking on productivity and time management and all that. But really, it's not about time management. It's about priorities. Because we all have 24 hours in the day. What you do with them is what you decide. And a lot of times it's what your priorities are. But most of the time, the reason we are so distracted and so busy is because we don't have clarity on our purpose, right? If you don't know your purpose in life, it's really easy to get distracted. It's really easy to just go kind of meander through life and do things you don't necessarily want to do, but you just do it because you don't really have any other actionable goals because you don't know your purpose. But when you know your passion, which has shown you your purpose will give you absolute clarity on your priorities. You will know every single day what you should be working on in your business, in your family life, your personal life, your spiritual life. That clarity gives you those priorities. But you can't know your priorities if you don't know your purpose. And if you don't know your purpose, you probably have no passion. So passion leads to purpose. Purpose leads to priorities. And priorities, when you know exactly what needs to be done, you know specifically what you're going to do in a day, you are putting your things in the performance planner, in your calendar, and you are committed to following through with that task list because it's a priority list, not a task list. And when you do that, that is when you have the next key, performance. Think about it. Performance is just the ability to perform at a successful level. It's doing what you love to do or doing what you're doing in a way that makes you stand out from everyone else. Because when you perform, that's when you get success. You'll hear from Tom tonight, Tom Ziglar. He talks a lot about going from, survival to success to significance. Performing in the mode of your success is huge in your life. It's not all there is. But unfortunately, you can't perform if you don't know your priorities. Because if you don't have your priorities straight, you're just going to kind of meander. So performance comes through priorities. Priorities only comes when you know your purpose, and your purpose only comes if you know your passion. So if passion leads to purpose, and purpose leads to priorities, and priorities leads to a greater performance, then what happens when you perform? When you perform at that A-game level and you're rocking it in your business and you're rocking it at home, that is when Oops. Am I on the wrong thing? Okay. That is when you create a platform. Now, I gave you some tools on how to create a profitable platform, but let's just be real here. Platform is a privilege, and it's earned. It's not deserved. The ability to get up and make a difference in someone else's life is not just because you say you want to do it. You get a platform when you have proven you deserve one, when you have performed in a way that people say, I want to know what you're doing. I want to know. Come, share your knowledge with my team, with my clients, with my stage, on my stage. So passion leads to purpose. Your purpose gives you the ability to know your priorities. Your priorities helps you to perform better, but when you perform better, that is when you have the privilege of a platform. And that is when you're able to make a difference and an impact. Because when you are sharing what you just naturally do well, because it's tied to your purpose, that's prosperity. Now, there's a lot of definitions of the word prosperity. That can mean something different to all of you. Some of you, maybe that's a financial prosperity. Others, it could be relationships. But prosperity is the bountifulness that you get by performing and having this ability to impact other people. It's moving from success to significance. Ultimately, that's what we want. We want to make a difference. Almost every hand went up in the room when I asked you, who wants to make a difference? Well, in order to be prosperous, in order to have that prosperity and live a life in joy and happiness and knowing that, gosh, I am doing a good thing in life, you can't do that if you don't have the platform, if nobody knows your story. Can't help people if they don't know it. And you can't really get a platform if you haven't performed. And if you haven't performed, it's probably because you don't know your priorities. And if you don't know your priorities, it's probably because you have no purpose or passion. So passion will show you your purpose. Your purpose will give you priorities. Your priorities will help you to perform at a level that allows you the privilege of a platform. And that platform gives you the ability to prosper because you're making a difference and you know your life matters. And ultimately, that prosperity leads to a life of peace. The peace of knowing you've done everything with that packet of seeds within you and there's nothing left. The peace of knowing that someday you may hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. That is the life I want to live. And those are the principles of success. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'm gonna wrap with, if Bookbound by the Sea or Bookbound Live, digital, is something that you're interested in, we are about to take a break. I'm gonna go straight back, take off my mic, and I'm gonna go straight back to my table, because come see me. We're only doing the 2-for-1 here at this event, and I do have to leave tomorrow at noon, so come see me. So, Sherry, is there anything else, or? No? Okay. All right. And so it is now 3:50. 20-minute break? Okay, we are taking a 20-minute break. So that puts us at 4:10. So we'll see you back in the back. Thanks, everybody.